The gap between your best laid plans and what you're actually able to execute, that's called real life. It's humbling, it's frustrating, and frankly, it's inevitable. But organizations, large or small, need not settle for broken systems that force them to limp along toward mediocrity, towards inefficiency and inertia. So in this video, I'm going to explain a concept called process mining, which helps organizations identify where their plans went haywire or were flawed to begin with, and how to get things not just back on track, but in the fast lane. Now, process mining is divided into 3 phases: discovery, monitoring, and optimization. Discovery solves a major problem for many organizations: lack of transparency. In other words, it seeks to identify what's not working behind the scenes. It searches for those hidden impediments that could be impacting customer relationships, cost, and ultimately a business's bottom line. In the past, the discovery phase required shoe leather detective work, and by that, I mean literally interviewing stakeholders. That's because the countless variations and patchwork solutions that come with real life often aren't formally documented. Instead, all the jury-rigged stopgaps and sweat and glue fixes tend to be buried in the minds of long-term employees. It's kind of like developing a cooking hack for your favorite meal, but never bothering to amend the recipe. But interviewing stakeholders has obvious shortcomings. It's time-consuming for starters, and it's often compromised by human bias. Perhaps a team member is reluctant to admit a shortcoming or is simply oblivious to best practices. But process mining circumvents that problem by extracting data directly from event logs. That data, in turn, is used to create a process model, essentially a chronological step-by-step outline of how a business actually operates. And that's where a cousin of process mining comes into play, a concept called task mining, which helps organizations drill down even further on their operations. Using advances like optical character recognition, natural language processing, and machine learning, task mining records and analyzes desktop data that is often absent from event logs, things like keystrokes, mouse clicks, and data entries. This information helps create a digital twin of an organization, basically a precise picture of how an organization works in the real world. This helps identify any dependencies that ought to be reevaluated. It also helps identify repetitive and unproductive tasks that can be automated. The digital twin, by the way, is dynamic. It identifies how deviations from best practices impact key performance metrics like time and cost. Okay, that takes us to the second phase in process mining. As I mentioned earlier, it's monitoring. This involves the process model that was generated during the discovery phase and comparing it to the original plan, the one before real life happened. That original plan, by the way, is sometimes called a reference model. Operating under the assumption that sunlight is the best disinfectant, a conformance check highlights the differences between the process model and the reference model and identifies where hidden bottlenecks and breakdowns occur. It also documents all those little ad hoc shortcuts and workarounds that have sneakily become part of the status quo. Crucially, the monitoring phase also unearths root causes for these deviations and inefficiencies. In essence, this is the part of process mining where organizations learn where and why they wandered off the preferred path, also dubbed the happy path. In addition, during monitoring, businesses can conduct fact-based compliance checks to make sure they're up to date with an ever-changing regulatory landscape. Okay, that takes us to the third and final phase, optimization. The big thing here is simulations, or comparing your as-is process model to your to-be process model. With this virtual tinkering, businesses can see how changes they are considering, like employing more automation, can impact key performance metrics and create downstream effects. And thanks to limitless scenario testing, organizations can experiment with different paths forward without committing time and money. In other words, it's trial and error without the consequences of error. This is extremely helpful when it comes to setting priorities and figuring out how to deploy limited resources. The 3 phases of process mining, like the phases of the moon, are cyclical. You draw up a plan, you see how it works in the real world, and you make adjustments again and again and again. Process mining allows you to constantly measure, constantly monitor, and constantly improve. This is all about agility and empowering businesses to quickly adopt process improvements through data-driven insights. IBM process mining, by the way, can adjust a business's processes automatically. Following a set of predefined rules, changes to a business's KPI trigger IBM Process Mining to execute corrective actions. Clients can even generate RPA bots with a click of a single button. That helps identify automation opportunities and fast-track implementation, which can eliminate repetitive work and streamline bloated processes. Basically, the transition from insight to action has been greatly simplified and accelerated. And RPA bots, by the way, can be reused across an organization. In addition, one of the core capabilities of IBM Process Mining is its ability to execute multi-level or multi-object process mining. This facilitates a global analysis of many-to-many relationship processes, like procure to pay and order to cash, and provides a unified picture of synergies across countries, departments, and functions. That end-to-end visibility means businesses can see how changes in one area might ripple across an organization. To learn more about process mining and how it can cut costs, save time, and drive efficiency, explore the links below. And please like, comment, and subscribe to the IBM Technology YouTube channel for more great tech content.